Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Primary Questions. If there's one thing that all the presidential candidates can agree on is that the world is a pretty complicated and scary place. A few months ago, I asked them what nation poses the biggest threat to the United States and why and what would you do about it? Now, this was when Iran and Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, try to say that 10 times fast, were in the headlines pretty prominently, and it was before the assassination of Benazir Bhutto. Still, many said Iran, and others cited other global hotspots. Here's what they had to say. What country frightens you the most, and what would you do about it as president?
I think Iran it poses a significant threat to stability in the Middle East. So I think we have to talk to Iran directly. And when we talk to Iran directly, even if there are profound disagreements there, that will send a signal to the world that we are not simply seeking to impose our will without paying attention to what other countries think. And that kind of dialogue has not taken place. This president has refused to do it. And I think it's a profound mistake. JFK once said we should never negotiate out of fear, but we should never fear to negotiate.
Iran, I think that they have a zealotry among the mullahs there, and they have been killing our people for a long time through Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations. And we, of course, cannot take military action off the table, but if we have to go in that direction, it'll probably be looked upon as, or should be looked upon as a failure of ours if we have to get down to the point of doing that. We have a lot of levers there. In terms of sanctions, in terms of supporting people inside the country of Iran. Their economy is in shambles. Their demonstrations going on all the time. They're suppressing their people. They're killing dissidents and students and things of that nature. So some of that issue might be resolved for us. You never know what the end result of that scenario would be either. But it would be better than the track we're on now.
Well, right now I am most worried about Pakistan. I think Pakistan is very unstable. I believe President Musharraf has failed to deliver on either democracy or a rising standard of living for his people. Democracy has to be carefully nurtured. I would put the United States firmly on the side of the Pakistani people and on behalf of those who are agitating for democracy and for rights. I mean, it's almost touching to see lawyers, well-dressed lawyers in the streets protesting and demonstrating for democracy, for the rule of law. I think the United States should be supporting those kinds of voices inside Pakistan, the non-governmental organizations that they are part of.
Probably now Iran is the greatest threat, but the greatest threat is radical Islamic extremism. And one of the reasons why it's such a great threat, it spills over any international boundaries. It's in Denmark, it's in Germany, it's in Glasgow, Scotland, and it's trying to establish itself here in the United States of America, according to the director of the CIA. That's the great threat.
What do you do to reduce or to calm the fires of this?
If we had succeeded in Iraq and used the right strategy, you and I would be talking of other things now. It has become a place where al-Qaeda wants to establish itself. It has become and will become, if we leave, according to a date for withdrawal, a center of al-Qaeda activities who want to destroy everything we stand for and believe in.
China. Because I think China presents huge challenges for America because of their size, because of their population. And because of their not paying attention to human rights, because of their support of dangerous regimes around the world, Sudan, Iran, places that China gets its fuel supply, its energy supply, and they're growing their military, and we need to put pressure on them economically, not allow them to continue to manipulate their currency, not allow them to continue to dump dangerous goods on American consumers, which I think they're doing today. I would ratchet up pressure on them diplomatically in terms of what they're doing around the world. I think they're enabling genocide in Sudan, in Darfur, with their economic policies with Sudan and Bashir. But those are the things I think that need to be done.
Iran would probably be at the top of that list. Iran is a nation which speaks of genocide and is rushing headlong to develop weapons that would allow them to carry it out. and that has to be frightening to the entire world. Iran speaks about giving nuclear material to other groups, not just nations, to other groups that would oppose the West. Iran welcomes individuals with bibs that say death to Israel, death to America. At this stage, you dramatically tighten economic and diplomatic sanctions. You make it very tough for Iran to do business around the world.
The most frightening country in the world is Iran. The way to deal with them is not to threaten them and saber rattle and have military options the way the Bush administration wants to do. But I would talk to them. People talking to each other. I'm a negotiator. I'm a diplomat. I've talked to all the bad people in the world in my life, and the North Koreans, the Cubans, Sudan, and I've succeeded.
Iran gives me the greatest concern because Iran is moving toward accomplishing the worst nightmare of the Cold War, nuclear weapons in the hands of an irresponsible regime. And then they're threatening the use of these weapons. There's just something unheard of. Even when we go back to the Cold War with the Soviet Union and China, we didn't have these aggressive threats for the use of nuclear weapons. They're talking about retaliatory use then. And we had mutually assured destruction. And we have an irresponsible regime, a state sponsor of terrorism, that now aggressively wants to become a nuclear power and tells us that they want to destroy Israel and kind of take us over as well. So I think we have to stop them from becoming a nuclear power.
In Pakistan, it is the most complicated relationship we have and the most dangerous. It has nuclear weapons. It not only has the nuclear warhead, it has the missiles. Although they have a majority of moderate and middle class people, there is a significant minority of extreme radical Islamicists. I've been trying to push our economic aid toward building schools in Pakistan. There are 7,000 madrasas, these extreme schools built along the Afghan-Pakistani border. We're not doing much for that middle class in Pakistan, dealing with their economic security and their long-term progress.
What country frightens you the most, and what would you do about it as president?
Probably Iran. And the reason being is that they have a leader right now whose rhetoric is not just inflammatory, but very threatening to Israel, to the rest of the world. Iran has the capacity, because of its oil reserves, if it were to create a serious alliance with Russia and then decide that maybe develop an axis with Venezuela and have that level of control over the oil economy, they could hold the world virtually hostage from both an energy standpoint and an economic standpoint. And it's one of the reasons that we have to accelerate our being completely non-foreign oil dependent. The sooner the better. We need to get to the place where we tell the Saudis as well as the Iranians that we need their oil about as much as we need their sand.